believe it's mother.
There's a lady coming out the bathroom now.
No, it's two more we're waiting on real quick.
Oh, I think she's coming out of there.
Oh, I'm doing even, so it's okay. My son starts. 2, 4. 16. Yeah, 31. 2.5. Now, does anyone think they captured anything paranormal nature? So I heard someone say they recorded the entire thing.
I did.
Wait, if you go back and look again,
It's up on the screen.
let me know if there's anything.
Yeah.
If you think you've captured anything, I was going to say, you can put it on our website. We'd love to have it. No, I'm tentative to do this, but again, if you're not here, raise your hand. Oh, do you want me to clarify real quick? Okay, so they were going to hang Charlie Powell, and when they did this, he was unconscious. He had passed out the day of his hanging. So they took a board and they tied him to the board, and they hanged him that way. But the extra weight of the board caused the rope, the noose, to snap, and he fell into the crowd. Now, Sheriff Perry wanted to hang him again, but when they got to his body, it turned out that his neck had snapped from falling. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I actually have some rather sad news for all of you. This is actually going to be the last story I tell this evening. Oh, you guys can do better than that. Everyone say, "Aww." If you're too much. Now, you see, at the end of the Second Seminole War in 1837, the United States offered a deceptive truce to the Seminole Native Americans. Now, a man named Osceola was their leader, and he wanted nothing more than to make peace with the United States. So he gathered all of his men together, and they came into St. Augustine, where they had a peace treaty set up. If you've heard of Treaty Park, that's the area that it took place in. The thing is, remember, it was a deceptive truce. So the United States chained up Osceola and imprisoned him inside the Castillo de San Marco. Now, while imprisoned, Osceola came down with malaria, so St. Augustine hired an odd local physician by the name of Dr. Frederick Whedon to take care of him. Now, Dr. Whedon did determine that Osceola was going to die, and St. Augustine, well, didn't want the blood of the great Native American on their hands. So they transported him to Fort Moultrie in South Carolina, and that's where... Heard someone from South Carolina? Yes? Okay. Well, that's where Osceola passed away. Now, once he was dead, Dr. Whedon made a very unusual request. He asked to be alone with the body of Osceola. Well, he was a doctor after all, so this was granted to him. Perhaps it was for further medical purposes. Now, with no one around, he walked up to Osceola's casket. He opened it up. He pulled out his largest, sharpest surgical knife, and he severed Osceola's head from his body. He hid this gruesome deed with a ceremonial burial scarf, closed the casket, and went on his way without anyone knowing what had happened. Now, just before they buried the casket, Dr. Whedon again made the same unusual request, and again it was granted. This time he brought along a large black medical bag. He walked up, again with no one around. He opened the casket. He grabbed Osceola's head, and he shoved it in that medical bag. He closed the casket, and they buried Osceola without anyone knowing what had happened. It was not till many years later in Dr. Whedon's private journals till this gruesome deed was discovered. He took Osceola's head and had it preserved in a jar with formaldehyde. Its home was on a shelf in his office for all of his patients to see. Instead, though many of them probably instead chose to look away like any sane person would do. Now, they said that Dr. Whedon had very well-behaved children. If they were bad, he would send them to bed without any supper. He would take Osceola's head, set it on their nightstand, place a candle behind it, and lock the door. Now, he must have wanted very well-behaved grandchildren, because guess what he gave his eldest daughter on the eve of her wedding? The head of Osceola. And wouldn't you know, she didn't want it. She instead re-gifted it to a museum in New York State, but a few months later, that museum oddly and unexplainably burned to the ground, and the head was lost forever. But it is said, to this day, here, in St. Augustine, on the grounds of the Castillo, people still can see Osceola searching for his lost head. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our tour. You have been absolutely wonderful this evening. Again, My name is Daniel. Our current driver is Mr. James. Our former driver was Ted. And your Charlie Powell was my good friend William. Now, if you're traveling in Savannah, Boston, or Key West, please look for Ghosts and Gravestones represented by Historic Tours of America. Again, thank you all for being very well behaved this evening. It is greatly appreciated. And I hope you all have a wonderful and safe evening. And please watch your step as you exit the trolley.